Y'all want to watch a decent Tubi movie? Surprisingly, I enjoyed this one. Brittany, a detective who has been taken off active duty for accidentally shooting a hostage, keeps getting nightmares. Brittany kind of fine, though. She meets with her police psychologist, Stephanie Barnes, because the department wants to ensure that she's fit to return to work. She tells her that her nightmares are the same. She is running down a dark alley chasing a suspect, and then all of a sudden, the suspect is lying in her arms. When she says she doesn't like taking her medication because it makes her dizzy, Stephanie encourages her to take it because she's not doing well and assures her that the side effects will disappear. This why you need a black psychologist. One night, a white girl is jogging and is attacked and stabbed. Meanwhile, Brittany is having dinner with her fine boyfriend Brad, but she's too busy playing chess with a random player online. Brittany then admits they should probably take a break from breaking each other's back. Brad is disappointed he ain't getting head tonight, so he leaves. The next day, Brittany sees the police captain, Captain Summers, briefing the team about 34-year-old mother of two, Mary Jo Alice, who was stabbed in the chest multiple times and has C4 carved on her forehead. When he shows them the white pawn chess piece that was lodged in her throat, Brittany, who is a brilliant chess player, involves herself in the case and theorizes that the killer's message to them is white pawn to C4, which is a chess move. Summers orders the team not to tell anyone about the case and orders the sergeant to look into unsolved cases in case they can match the MO. After the briefing, Brittany begs Summers to allow her to join the case, saying she can solve it because she's knowledgeable in chess after having watched Queen's Gambit once. Although she's not allowed to unless she finishes her sessions with Stephanie, Summers, who knows she's a brilliant detective, allows her to join and pairs her with Officer Jose Rodriguez. At the crime scene, Brittany does a thorough job. Then Judge Marcus interrupts her. "Where's Nikki Parker at?" Marcus is disappointed that Brittany, his daughter, didn't show up to his ceremony. Brittany is annoyed at Marcus because he was fairly absent most of her life. Later that night, Vincent Hathaway, the gay son of a wealthy real estate developer, is killed in their stable. Poor Vincent was just trying to get it in with a hung horse. When the cops get to the crime scene, they find a white knight in his mouth and C3 on his forehead. At least it wasn't a D in his mouth. Since the victim is high profile, Summers expects the press to go crazy. Brittany looks at the small crowd by the police line tape, and upon seeing Derek beside a bearded man with a red cap, she informs Summers, who talks to him. The medical examiner, Carl, informs Brittany that the killer is left-handed. He adds that the killer is an angry person because the chess pieces were forcefully shoved in the victims' mouths, which broke their front teeth. With no lead, Summers suggests bringing in another team to help, especially with the pressure from the police chief, the mayor, and the public. When Brittany begs him to give her more time, she tries to explain the chess clues to him, but even she doesn't know what it entails. He gives her another 48 hours. Meanwhile, Brad goes to Brittany's psychologist to try to get Brittany off the case. His fine self fails at convincing her, though, and she threatens to report him if he doesn't leave. Later that night, Brad asks Brittany to back away from the case because it's turning political and he doesn't want her to take the fall. Since DEI hires have been taking the fall for everything lately, she refuses as she wants to stop the killer and prevent more deaths, but promises to be careful. Shortly after, Jose informs Brittany about another murder. While inspecting the homeless male victim at the crime scene, Brittany sees the same bearded man with a red cap from the stable by the police line tape. A red cap is already a red flag. She heads towards him, and he begins to run, so she chases after him. Since he's big-backed and can't climb a fence, Brittany arrests him. When she takes him in for questioning, the man maintains his innocence, saying he was at the stable because he's a ham hock operator. He got curious when he got the calls through his CB radio, so he wanted to check things out. Since he has a strong alibi and is right-handed, she lets him go. Girl, he's still sussy for me. His build made for medieval serfdom. Summers informs Brittany that the mayor and governor want to send in the FBI to help them because the FBI has resources they don't have, and the Hathaways have political clout. Pressured to solve the case as soon as possible, Brittany asks for the help of her estranged father, Marcus, who is a retired judge and a chess master. He was also Professor Ogilvy before. After she informs him that all the victims have white chess pieces in their mouths and chess moves carved on their foreheads, he asks her to play chess with him as white. He tells her that she needs to think like a killer to catch one. Marcus says that white pawn to c4 doesn't make sense as an opening move because opening moves are supposed to secure the center. When he asks if the female victim was short in stature and she confirms, he informs her that one of the pawn meanings throughout history is a small woman. After he makes his move, Brittany moves white knight to c3, prompting him to say that the victim is an equestrian rider and loved to ride white d. Later, Carl informs Brittany that the entry wounds on all the victims indicate that the stun gun was deployed at close range. Since stun guns only immobilize and do not make one unconscious, she theorizes that the killer wants the victims to know who is killing them. When Brittany informs Marcus that the homeless victim's move is white pawn to d4, he informs her that another meaning for pawn is foot soldier, so he asks her to check if the victim had served in the military. Trying to figure out the killer's next move, Brittany says that the only move that will make sense is a bishop, but she's clueless on how she can identify the next victim before that person dies. Hello, a church bishop girl. That night, Brittany and Brad go back to doing the nasty. The next morning, Brittany receives confirmation from the homeless man's wife that he was a soldier, and Summers informs Brittany that the FBI will come in 2 days. Brittany informs him that she has been consulting Marcus, and they figured out that the next victim will have a white bishop in his mouth. He says he'll place guards at the rectory, but warns her that they can't do anything anymore once the FBI arrives. To Brittany's horror, Brad is killed later that night. Summers stops the devastated Brittany from seeing Brad, but she composes herself and insists on inspecting Brad herself. She finds F4 carved on Brad's forehead, a white bishop chess piece in his mouth, and a strand of hair on his arm, which is sent to the lab. Brittany later experiences another nightmare, but the dead person lying bloody on her arms is Brad. Because of this, she takes her medication. Brittany meets with Stephanie for another session, but instead of opening up, she asks Stephanie to help her solve the case by discussing the killer's psychology. She shares that she thinks the killer knew the victims and had a grudge towards them. When she shares about Brad dying in her dream, Stephanie says that it could be guilt because she wasn't able to save him, which is normal. Stephanie then writes her a new prescription, changing the dosage of her medication. Stephanie advises Summers to remove Brittany from the case because she is showing classic signs of PTSD, but he tells her that she's doing great on the case and she's with Jose in case something goes wrong. He thanks her for coming and warning him, but I don't think she came. Carl informs Brittany that, unlike the other victims, Brad was tasered twice, probably because the first one on the nipple only spun him around instead of taking him down. He adds that 2 out of 3 stab wounds were done post-mortem, so the kill was personal. The next day, Brittany informs Summers that the hair analysis indicates that the culprit is either Caucasian or Hispanic. Since the chess piece was for a bishop, but Brad isn't a religious leader, Summers tells her that maybe killing Brad was a message for her to back off. After seeing Brad's Bardstown Marathon bib and medal in his office, Brittany realizes that he does match the chess piece because the bishop is a runner. Marcus and Brittany discuss why Brittany was on leave. Marcus says it wasn't her fault that Brittany killed the innocent woman because it was dark. Afterwards, Brittany adds Brad's move on the chessboard. Marcus recalls that the moves are similar to the moves made by his opponent during the Chess Masters tournament, but his opponent's opening move was knight to f3. He says he won the game because his opponent was disqualified for playing someone else's game and failed to protect his king. Realizing something, Brittany asks him to temporarily stay at her place so he'll be safe and heads to the office. Brittany receives the Hathaway Estates CCTV footage that starts 2 weeks before Vincent's death. Upon reviewing it, she sees Vincent and Jose hugging. When questioned, Jose confesses to topping Vincent for a year, but Vincent broke it off a month ago. He says he didn't divulge that information because Vincent didn't want his father to know, and he didn't want anyone to think he had anything to do with his death. Brittany tells Summers that Jose isn't the culprit because he has an alibi for the night of the first murder. When Summers asks why she's reviewing the Benson case, the case of a high school track coach found dead on the field one night with 3 teenage witnesses, she says she's reviewing unsolved cases because Mary Jo might not be the first victim since Marcus said that the opening move doesn't make sense. Since the record says there's a cut on the victim's forehead, she interviews one of the teenage witnesses again, even though the cut is unidentifiable because of skull damage and there's no mention of a chess piece. The witness gives her the white knight chess piece he took from the corpse because of a dare, and she learns that the victim is a hurdler in high school, which matches the knight. The killer kidnaps Marcus, who awakens in the old courthouse, bound in a chair. Meanwhile, Brittany theorizes that the case is about Marcus, and when she fails to find him and sees that their white king chess piece is no longer on their chessboard, she figures that Marcus has been taken by the killer. Why it gotta be white? Remembering that Marcus's opponent was playing someone else's game, Brittany, together with Summers, looks up Marcus's Grandmaster tournament online and learns that his opponent patterned the opening moves of Bobby Fischer. They look into the cases Marcus had worked on and find the criminal case of Dennis Donald Barnes from 15 years ago. Dennis had played against Fischer and was convicted of killing 4 women and was sentenced to death. Because of this, Brittany figures that the case is about revenge. Meanwhile, the killer, who turns out to be Stephanie, reveals to Marcus that she is Dennis's daughter. She angrily tells him that Dennis was innocent and he hung himself in his cell because of Marcus, the arrogant prosecutor Brad, and the heartless jury which consisted of the white lady, the gay boy, and the homeless vet. She adds that her mom took her own life and that she also took her own life and almost didn't make it. I didn't predict it would be the psychotherapist. Looking into Dennis's family, Brittany and Summers discover that Stephanie is his daughter. Brittany realizes that Stephanie purposely gave her medication that can make her dizzy and that Stephanie fingers herself with her left hand. Brittany rushes to the old courthouse, thinking that that's where Stephanie might have taken Marcus. Brittany finds Marcus with Stephanie, who tells her that Marcus, Brad, and the jury framed Dennis. After Brittany drops her gun, she says she had read Dennis's file and informs her that aside from his DNA being found at each crime scene, Dennis had confessed before he was executed. She adds that Dennis said he did it because they were all blonde and petite, the opposite of his wife and Stephanie's mother, Rosalind. Marcus hits the distracted Stephanie with his head, allowing Brittany to pick up her gun. Brittany chases Stephanie, who attempts to stab her. During the struggle, Brittany shoots Stephanie and then leaves her. Stephanie recovers and attempts to stab Brittany as she is freeing Marcus, but Brittany fatally shoots her. The cops arrive and Marcus and Brittany tearfully embrace, marking the start of their mended father-daughter relationship. Where the Parkers at, though? Man, this was actually a well-executed Tubi movie. I enjoyed the mystery of it all. Sometimes slow, but mostly everything made sense, and that's something for Tubi. This is called Checkmate, and you should definitely check it out. What did you guys think of this one?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.